It's time for Tax Dialogue, and I have Alex Ampaabeng and also Leonard Shang-Quartey. Leonard Shang-Quartey is of the Tax Justice Collation, and Alex Ampaabeng is of the Oxfam, Ghana. And we'll be talking to them. We're going to talk about corruption and how corruption eventually affects the taxation. Let me introduce our guest. Hello, guys. How are you? Good morning.
Very good. Good morning.
So, good morning.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
All right. So, what is the relationship between corruption and taxation? Any of you can go for it.
I think I'll go for, should I say, inverse relationship?
Okay. Explain.
When corruption is high, taxes revenue especially will be low.
Okay. So,
And
so that's revenue.
yes,
All right,
I'm
so-
looking at the tax as a revenue. I also come later on the tax rate.
Okay.
So,
Good.
so for the start, because you look at the tax in the form of the expenditure side and then the revenue. But in terms of the question, to answer your question as the relationship, then definitely they have inverse relationship. When there is high corruption, first, the money that is due for basic infrastructure, money that is due for the nation's development is diverted in a way. When there's also corruption, investor confidence is eroded. The World Bank normally publishes ease of doing business, and there are factors that they come into play. They use certain factors or parameters to determine how easy to do business. And you get to know contract enforcement is one of them. Within the contract enforcement, there's an element of corruption, how easy it is to have law and order in a country. All these are put together to determine how easy for an investor to survive in a particular jurisdiction. An investor, an outsider, like if it's me, based in an external country, external jurisdiction, trying to come to Ghana to do business, the first thing I will look at are some of those factors: ease of registering a business, tax payment, contract enforcement, and few factors which they take into play. Now, when the issue of corruption comes in, if you're an investor, you don't want to invest in a country where there's huge corruption, a country where you think law enforcement will be difficult. Having said that, corruption has a tendency of increasing the tax rate, because when there's corruption, few people will be paying the taxes. Because remember, tax is based on the morale, the tax morale, as in the...
When you say, okay, so all right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll continue the conversation. Don't go anywhere, please. All right, welcome back. We were talking about the effect of corruption on revenue collection and then therefore tax rates. All right, so continue.
Yes, so the point I was making is that if corruption is high, public confidence is low. If you look at this morning, I was looking at data on the World Corruption Index and then tax to GDP ratio of selected countries. What I realized is that in countries where the World Corruption Index put them as very high, corrupt countries tend to have very low tax to GDP ratio.
Okay.
Which, without doing any detailed analysis, it automatically tells you, by just looking at the data, it kind of tells you that when there's high corruption, public confidence is low. Remember, tax, as I keep saying last time, tax is like,
Yes.
yeah? So nobody wants to pay it.
Painful experience.
The more you can have voluntary tax compliance, the better you collect. Voluntary tax compliance comes in when there's high public confidence that, one, the tax revenue will be put to good use. Those who don't pay will be dealt with.
Yeah.
But where there is huge corruption, every single day you tune into the radio, to the TV, you keep hearing one case after the other. How would you expect a taxpayer to voluntarily go and pay their taxes when they know that the money they pay go down the drain? People want to see that the money I'm paying is for good cause. People want to see the hand that handles the tax money is stronger enough, is protecting the public purse, so whatever I'm putting in is not going down the drain. But where you have huge corruption, public confidence is down. What that means is that we need to do more of an enforced compliance, which is exactly the situation in Ghana. Ghana, I haven't done any detailed research, but my educated guess is that voluntary compliance is low. And that's why GRA is always on people's tails. I mean, closing down shops, putting padlocks in, prosecuting people and here and there. It's an evidence that people don't want to go voluntarily and pay, which is the ultimate aim of every tax authority. What you want to do is to make sure there's a huge number of your people paying the taxes voluntarily. You spend less.
Having said that, though, I have cases where I know a couple of people who have voluntarily gone to go and request about how much tax they owe so that they can sort out their liabilities. But having done that, then the office of the GRA now almost makes them as victims. It's almost like they are now, it's like you made a mistake to come and even ask because now we're going to hound you, you know. And I think that a lot of our systems seem to function like that. I don't know if you have any experience with some of these kind of situations, because if you want people to come and pay, when they come, treat them nicely. You know, treat them well. Don't treat them like thieves, because they have come of their own volition. I don't know if you have anything to say.
Basically, these are some of the system defects that you have, because it's not the individual GRA officers per se, but then that's how the system has been like for time past without any review.
Okay.
So basically, you have them going by their existing procedures. So even though maybe if you could make a little allowance or accommodation of the one coming before you, so that at least you can rake in the revenue that has not been collected. I mean, they have to follow some procedures, and it's almost as if operating mechanically. But then that calls into question the number of times we put the systems, the collection systems, the administration, and all of that under review, so that we look at aspects that needs improvement, aspects that maybe should be taken out, all targeting enhanced revenue mobilization. But then back to your question about the relationship between corruption and taxation. I mean, it's so significant because if you look at the point that Doctor made about the public trust, it's important because the whole idea about the social contract between the people and the government is based on this trust.
Okay.
That we, the people, agree to surrender some of our rights to the government, and in return, government also does A, B, C. So if government is not holding up its end of the bargain, then it undermines the public confidence, it undermines the public trust. What this means is that you are not only going to have low collection rates, but then you are also going to incur a significantly higher amount at collection.
Yeah.
Because now, instead of voluntary compliance, you have to force people, and you have to put in a lot more. So it's important, and the rate at which some of these media stories come up often now and then, I mean, feeds into this undermining of the because every now and then, I'm not saying that the media should know. It's important that these stories come up. What we have to do is that when these stories come up, they are resolved.
Okay.
And justice is sought.
We see that justice is actually being...
Yes, justice is done.
What are some of the cases that cause you most concern, though?
I think
or both of them?
it would be personally difficult for me to single out a particular case. To me, it's all down to how do we react is different from how we follow the stories. And one thing our media is very good at is that when there's a story, every morning, every single TV radio station is on the tail. Within 1 month, 2 weeks, dead. Which is our biggest challenge.
So we don't follow
You don't follow.
Okay.
The media, you all don't follow. And to me, we will get somewhere if the watchdog role the media is playing is continuing to the latter. For example, you might have an individual or team assigned to specific type of cases. So then you know you have to follow this through to the end. Because the more we keep quiet, as soon as there's a new issue, that one is dead. New one will come, we're all following this. New issue comes, that one is dead. But you have a role to play. We, the civil society, are equally at fault. Because the civil society will be making all the noise. But right after a new issue comes, civil society are quiet. If the civil society and the media will sit up and play their role, I think we will get somewhere with it. But in terms of taking one single issue out, I wouldn't take any. Because I think it's about public confidence. Every single huge corruption issue takes away the confidence people have in the system. It takes away the drive for people to go and pay voluntarily. And what that means is that the few who are paying are going to pay a huge tax rate, which is the point I was making earlier. Ghana has one of the highest tax rates in the world, not even in Africa.
Wow.
Why? The reason is that just a few are paying. People are not paying voluntarily. The majority of those who are paying are those who are on PAYE, so who are on employment. So your employer deducts directly. Hardly can we match up with the PAYE, with the self-employed or other individuals who might want to pay voluntarily, simply because the trust is not there. So if we can fix the trust issue, and like Leo said earlier, it's a contract. It's a contract between us and the government that we give you the money, we expect you to use the money very well.
Okay.
But now, now is the case that we pay the money with minimum results. People in big positions are looting money every single day. We just hear in the news, nothing is done.
Yeah.
Even if something is done, it's not done openly. But what will bring public confidence is that transparency, is the openness. Punish people openly. When you punish people openly, when you publish it in the news what has been done, then it's good. But if somebody is relieved of their duties for engaging in corrupt cases, what is the meaning of this? What people want to see is not about telling the person to step down. Stepping down is not a punishment.
No, it's not.
But people have to face the full rigor of the law. People need to be made held accountable for what they have done, because this is stealing openly. So why can't we have proper structures in place that if you occupy a public position, you engage in any corrupt practices, we go by the law? Because I know you have the laws. If it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, let the person go to jail. Let this serve openly and send a strong signal that whoever is occupying public position need to be accountable. What this will mean is that it will bring that strong confidence back to the people that, okay, knowing that when I pay the tax will end up somewhere good. Not that a big man sitting somewhere will just take the money and then nothing will be done. Or what we hear in the news that he's been sacked. And then the media will make noise, and then 2 months later, dead. The next minute, the person has been given another appointment. That is a big insult to the public. And there is no way people will be going ahead and pay taxes voluntarily with this kind of practices.
When it comes to specific cases, I think that's where you have a bit of bipartisanship around that, because you can cite instances from both parties. I think presently you have the PPA issue, which is big, and then speaks, gives an insight into what is happening. You also had the big one, the Wyoming one, in the past government. But then what it tells you is that people are spending monies that they don't have. Political parties are spending monies that they don't have. And it goes back to the question about how political parties fund themselves in this country. Because, many people were acting surprised when the PPA issue came up. But then I know the politicians themselves were not surprised.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people go to some of these people and then they ask them to go and see Mr. A. Oh, go and see Mr. A, he will sort you out. Where is Mr. A getting his or her monies
The
from?
means to sort out.
I mean, the guy is a public servant on a public servant salary or wage.
Yeah.
How much is that? So it means that people have the understanding that this is supposed. So I think we really need to deal with this whole issue about how we fund our political parties, because it is through some of these schemes that people get to spend these monies that they don't have. And then you come back to the institutions that we have. Look at what happened at the PPA. I mean, the lawyers of the institution supporting that whole act. It means that we don't have any gatekeeper there. we don't have any gatekeeper.
Yeah.
As the who is
So as the alleged, malpractices were going on there were legal people involved as well, making
who were putting in defense.
sure things are running smoothly for the operators. So yeah, I mean, so let's talk about the aspect of financial management, when it comes to government, because you receive the funds in terms of revenue. How then do you judiciously use what we've already collected, so that this business of now we've got CST has gone up, utilities have gone up, fuel went up not too long ago. So how do we not come back and say, give us more, when we've already given you some?
And that was the point I was making, that until we tackle corruption, Ghanaians shouldn't expect lower taxes. It's very straightforward. If corruption is tackled, again, public confidence will be high. People's willingness to pay voluntarily, the tax morale will be up. And we did a study not long ago testing the tax morale of Ghanaians. And one thing you realize is that just as they pay their tithe at the churches, the average Ghanaian have a huge tax morale. In other words, the willingness to pay is there. But having the morality alone is not enough. What we need is the situation, is the issue we are talking about here.
Yeah.
Confidence in the system, that psychological contract that I give you this, I get this back. If these two will be tackled, Ghanaians are willing to pay. But as it stands, just go and do some few sampling, and then you'll confirm what I'm saying. People want to pay, but the question is, even if you pay, where would the money lead to? We've been paying. So now, therefore, the emphasis has been on indirect taxes. We've been seeing the communication service taxes up, even though government is trying to promote digitization agenda.
Yeah.
But then we're increasing communication tax.
Yeah.
So where is that not counterproductive? We are not getting anywhere with that digitized agenda if people have to pay more to use the service you're promoting. Fuel prices have gone up. Again, you can even link that to corruption, because this huge issue that was happening in the energy sector is not down to contractual issues linked to the same corruption we are talking about, which means that there's a huge backlog of debt accruing from the energy sector. Government have to find a way to finance. The only option is to increase taxes there. Here is the marginalized who suffers the most. When taxes are increased, like indirect taxes going up, it's not going to affect that big man sitting in that air condition earning 20, 30,000 Ghana a month. But is that poor market woman, is that poor guy in the street, and like me and you, who are going to face the full wrath? Because it will fall disproportionately on the poor compared to the rich. Taxes will keep rising, and that's a fact, because we don't have much option apart from PAYE and the indirect taxes. If you look at the Ghana when the revenue is out, the quarterly revenue, if you have time to check and line by line, and you understand where I'm coming from, there's the PAYEs and the indirect taxes, which support a chunk of the government revenue. Why? Because people don't trust the system.
Yeah.
People are not willing to come from outside as you would expect, even though we say we are leading on FDI in West Africa, probably it can be more if there's more confidence in the system. We have the political stability, we have a vibrant youth, good purchasing power, affluent level is going up. Everything favors Ghana for investors to move in.
Yeah.
Can we start dealing with the issue of corruption to make sure that there's more revenue and we'll be able to finance ourselves? Last time I was making an example of how Georgia, they went through that 2 years reform. This is the reform we have been going on for many years. Georgia did that 2 years. Within the second year, they fully financed their budget.
Wow.
Georgia just had independence in the 90s. And we are how many years old? 60-something years old. And we keep saying, we are not there, we are not there, we are not. You're fighting corruption and you say you're not there? Are we serious as a country? It's time to be strong in the fight against corruption if we are to have lower taxes. But as I keep saying, there's no way taxes are going to be low. I expect more, and I was even shocked when the government made a U-turn on the additional band tax of 35%. To me, that U-turn shouldn't have come down to, I think they reduced to 30 on 20,000, if my records are right. But probably they should have kept that additional band, but rather lift up the base a bit. You see, so we have a problem. The problem is our biggest enemy in this country are the fight against corruption. Is when a political party member A commits a crime, engage in corrupt practice, political party B will support it. But people within the political party A will see nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you sit on the radio and you see how a political party communication officer, youth organizer, or women organizer, defending tooth and nail a wrong act. And you begin to, where are we going? Wrong is wrong, regardless of who committed the wrongful act. So it's time we see the fight against corruption as a national issue and not political party A versus political party B. Let's stand up, because one day, you might be in opposition, you come into power. You're in power today, you might be in opposition the next year. Whoever comes into power, we need the revenue. The revenue is not going to go up if corrupt cases keep popping up, as we've been seeing. Tax rate will always go up because corruption means people are not paying. Therefore, the few that you get, you have to keep increasing the tax rate. You keep increasing. Look at the current increases in the fuel, the communication. Few things have gone up. But are we going to get that proportionally to our income? Absolutely not. So the hardship will keep rising. So the effect of corruption is huge, and it affects everybody. So this fight has to be fought as a nation. To me, corruption is a national disaster. We need to declare that and then fight it together as a national pandemic.
Any thoughts on this?
I think we have to improve on building public trust. And there are two things we can do. First, we must seek to prevent these acts of corruption before they even occur. And that comes with building up of our institutions to be able to resist and defend itself against some of these abuses, political abuses. What has become of the internal audit agencies or the internal audits that are supposed to be operating in some of these, in the public agencies? I mean, because they are there, they are supposed to vet some of these things before they go through, and we end up with some of these cases. So there is an alert there that we have to do something to improve the performance of the internal audit agency. And then also, besides that, we also have to look at the legal departments. I mean, these legal officers in the MDAs are not the personal lawyers or the CEOs or the heads of those institutions. They are lawyers of the agency there to defend the interest of the agency and the state. When they understand their role as that, then we cannot have some of those legal defenses that we saw in the PPA example. And then the second thing we ought to do is resolution of acts of corruption. I mean, the public must see justice being done when their tax revenues are privately appropriated, as some will say. So I mean, so what happens if?
But it doesn't look like we have much of an appetite for, imprisoning people, jailing people for their wrong acts.
And that's what they fear most. But then, ironically, you find them. Oh, I think when you do everything you can to take back the money, but then you can see that as an elite argument, and most of the people who have the platform or opportunity to be making some of these arguments belong to the other class. I think those from whom these monies are being stolen from, and for which reason they will not have access to good health care, or water, or good public education, they would want to see much more than recovery. Even if you go to the advanced world, I mean, it is not either or. It is both recovery and some time in jail.
Yeah.
And I think the public has to see some of these cases being resolved and justice being done.
Yeah.
And I think that would do a lot to improve public confidence and trust.
You want to say something?
Yes, and I think to me, add up to what Leo just said, we need to have civil servants being civil servants. And civil servant being civil servants means political interference is too much in the country on civil servant positions. Because if civil servants follow through the right procedure, get appointment, and they are performing their duties without fear of any political party coming into power or going out of power, I think we'll go a step towards solving these corruption cases.
Okay.
Because most of the time, most people get into positions, or some people get into positions we all know are not up to the task. But there's that element of job for the boys. So you know for a fact that this person is not up to the task. Very technical role, but because of a person's position or contribution in a political party, the person gets the nod to do the job. So when they are there, they know next election, they are out.
Yeah.
So within that few years they just have to get everything.
They can. Yeah.
But if I go through all the process and get the appointment as a civil servant, knowing that my position is secured and guaranteed, regardless of who is in power, I'm more powerful. Because even if you're my boss, I see something going wrong at work, I can't say, because I dare not, because there'll be that phone call, that will be the end of me. But if I know that you're my boss, we all went through the same process to get a job. So me reporting you, I don't care. I know my job is secured.
Yeah.
We are okay, but a strong civil servant, a civil service institution is to me one of the biggest pillars. And then the punishment should be very open and should be high enough to deter others from doing that. We need to make sure we don't cover up to score political points. To me, I think as a ruling government or somebody in government, when one of your people commits a crime or engage in acts of corruption, if you punish these people openly, you win more votes the next election than covering up. Because the more you cover up, people begin to think...
I totally agree with that. No, I totally agree with that, because I think that human beings, we are very interesting as a people. We want to feel that our leaders are strong.
Absolutely.
And we can trust in their strength.
Yes.
You know, so ultimately, if they show strength, then we are more likely to say, I'll depend on you.
Absolutely.
As opposed to showing weakness, showing, flip-flopping, between positions.
But then again, that is why we have to deal with the issue of the monetization of our politics and the role of money in elections. Because the question is, people will want to show this trend, but then where will the next money for the next campaign come from? And that's why we have to deal with the issue of political party financing, and then discouraging also monetization of electoral politics in this country. That's at the base. Because the next question your campaign manager asks you is, do you know Asimasi is the one who provided X amount? He's even promised. So it's important.
So then the parties are beholden to certain people.
Yeah. And without that financial muscle, you cannot access power, you cannot maintain power. So it's like you always need that to keep yourself in place. And we have to de-incentivize that as a country. And that is why we have to make some of these acts of corruption.
Okay. I think we'll have to investigate this a little further. Not today, though. But when, after two terms of a cycle of political leadership, right, inevitably, the incumbent loses power. It's been like that for the last 20-something years that we've been practicing, multi-party democracy in our country. So here's the question. If after the second term, they lose power, what is it in the psyche of the people that says, we don't care how much you're spreading around, we don't want you? How do we tap into that?
I think this is where we might need a political scientist to answer that.
I think we have only two options at any point in time.
Yeah.
So the two options, and they all look so similar. But then what happens is that coming to the second term, to the end of the second term, I mean, the instances are so fresh, and the wrongs of the previous...
We are so upset, we are so tired.
Exactly.
It's like we had enough. Yes. Doesn't matter what you say.
The wrongs of the previous government is so remote that
you one too. Okay, so thank you very much.
So I mean, it's something we have to deal with.
All right, thank you very much to Leonard Shang-Quartey, and then also to Dr. Alex Ampaabeng. We'll be talking about corruption and taxation.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The City Tube,
for exclusive breakfast daily content and other City TV programs.
like, comment, and share with your friends.